Welcome into the year 2025, season 21, episode 1 of the Built on Air podcast. Good to be back with everybody after a month off and holidays and break, and hopefully everybody's refreshed and ready for the new year. Good to be back with you. Dan Fellers, Camille Parks with us, and Scott Rose is our number one returning guest host with us. Welcome back, Scott.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here, and Happy New Year.
Yep, seems right that we kick off the new year with Scott, and I'll run us through what we're going to be talking about today on the show. We always start with our around the bases to get you up to date on everything. We've been gone for a month, so a few extra items that we'll be talking about and everything there. Then a quick shout out to our sponsor on Air, and then Scott's going to walk us through fill out and also Airtable forms and do some comparison, show us some tips and tricks with forms. And then Camille's going to walk us through a new feature, undocumented feature within automations of sorting, lookup, and rollup fields. And then talk about our community, how you can join. And then finally, we're going to have a discussion about the state of Airtable going into this year, see how far they've come, maybe make some predictions for the upcoming year. And that will wrap up today's show. So with that, around the bases, first, let's start with a little bit of humor. This is the year of AI. So Russ Henneberry, I'm not sure who that is, but an AI consultant, says this image is generated by AI, and he circles all the places where he found that you can see that it's an AI generated image. Obviously, the humor being that he missed the feet, the hands. So this is definitely the official full year. Well, I guess it was around all of last year as well, but I think we're going to see a lot more AI. It's going to be a regular part of our life.
What is he
Yay.
circling? What is he circling on the shoulder there?
I think like a little bit of dirt or something, or just like
maybe the wrinkling, like it couldn't be a smooth line or something.
Yeah. But he missed the feet thing.
Yeah, that was the joke. Yeah, so that was intentional. Yeah,
that is hilarious.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what's new. So as far as announced features, we're going to talk about some unannounced ones, but in the month of December, they rolled out AI support for single and multi-select. So what does that mean?
So AI previously would be able to output a text output, like either a short or a long, series of paragraphs, and I think a few other field types. But now you can have AI output a single or multi-select field as though like a human had gone in and made those selections. So this is useful for things like categorization, I found, and then also anytime you need some value to be text-based but easily filterable. So the filters generally in Airtable for select fields are nicer to use, in my opinion, than if you had a text field, sort of like inexact text matching. And then if you rename or change the name of something over time, it's hard to go back and fix that. Whereas single selects and multi-selects carry that new value forward. So it's a nice improvement, and it's starting to remove some of the restrictions that AI in Airtable had, where it would only play nicely with the select view fields.
Okay. So this is so will it auto create new options, or it'll just pick from the list that you create?
So that I haven't been able to sort of test or verify. And then something else that's sort of unique to this version of select choices is that you can attach a description to each of the choices. So feature request, you could attach a description that's like, this is a request for a new set of features that don't yet exist in the product, or something like that, so that the AI knows a little bit more than just the words feature requests. Should I categorize it as this, or is it a bug report? that kind of thing. So most of the time your select choices are only going to be a handful of words long, and putting in that description gives the AI a little bit more meat to sort of like grab onto.
That makes sense, to help in the prompt. So
Yeah.
So with that, it probably doesn't create new options. I think my guess is you still define the options, and then this just uses AI to select which option.
That's my understanding as well. And then the first selection in that screenshot of the field's options generate values with AI underneath that. That's where you select based on what. So if you have a field called like request description, and it's a long text where someone filled out a form and said, I have this great new idea for a feature, blah, 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 blah. That's where you would select which of your many fields in your table should the categories field try and interpret in order to determine whether or not it's a feature request or a bug report or the other two options there.
Yeah.
Now, can you tell it how to figure it out by clicking on that little gear icon and like typing up a paragraph of information?
I think so. So next to generate values with AI, there is another gear icon in that. So there's actually like a lot of settings in order to get this to sort of function. And then maybe we could cover this on a future episode because it's fairly, it's the field options panel now has a lot of stuff in it, and sometimes they're grouped up into multiple sections, and sometimes they're not. They're just sort of all on one sort of screen, if you will, like we're seeing here. And I think there might be some time to readjust how this is presented to users, because there's a lot of things to click on in order to get it to work the way you want it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's plan on doing this next week. We can dig into this. I think that'd be interesting. Awesome. Okay, here's one for the techies out there that want to go deep under the hood. So the engineering team at Airtable keeps a blog. They post every couple months. We like to highlight it. So if you like to see how they are thinking about product development and behind the scenes, this dives into their mobile app on Android and how it's built. So you can check that out. Which is kind of interesting to think that it's good to know that they're building their mobile apps in-house. They're not outsourcing that to a development team or something.
Right. And I do like that they have this blog to sort of, they don't have to do this, but it's interesting to see their sort of perspective. A lot of times these articles are a little bit at a high level. They're not doing like a deep dive into every little facet of whatever topic is at hand, in this case, their Android app. But it is interesting to see from the perspective of people who build software that's used by like thousands of people, what was their decision-making process, and what were some like tough choices that they had to make in order to get there.
Yep. Okay, next one. Okay, this one was interesting. I think, Scott, you answered this one. So a user unsubscribed from the marketing email by mistake. Now he wants to restore. Is it possible, Scott?
Oh, yeah. What he is referring to is when you send an email using Airtable's automations, using Airtable's send an email action, not the Google send an email, not Gmail send an email, nor Outlook send an email. But when you use Airtable's send an email, what happens now is that Airtable will send out the email to the person, but then at the very bottom of the email, they'll put in Airtable adds an unsubscribe link to the bottom of the email. And so let's say you're sending out updates to your team, this item was approved, this item was not approved, blah, blah, blah. If somebody is receiving those emails, and then they click on that unsubscribe link, they will not receive any more emails from that automation, but it's permanent. The problem is it's permanent. You can't get that person back on it again. So if somebody clicks on that on accident, maybe they really want, maybe the person left the company or something, and they're like, hey, stop sending me these emails, and they want to get off of it. But let's say they accidentally clicked on it. there's no way for us to actually get that person back on the email list. So they have actually unsubscribed from the send email action. And I actually don't know if it's specific just to that one Airtable automation. I think it is. I hope it's only for that one automation. It might be, who knows, maybe it's for all the automations, but I'm assuming
that would be terrible.
That would be terrible. I'm assuming it's just for that one automation, because right, that would be very terrible. But the crazy thing is you can't get that person back on. We have absolutely no way to manage that unsubscribe list.
You also have no way of knowing someone unsubscribed either.
That's right. So, yeah, so a couple things about this. Number one is I recommended in this email in this response to this guy that he may be able to get some success by emailing support@airtable.com. I don't actually know, because I don't think he wrote back in this thread. I don't know if Airtable support has the ability to manage that list, but I said that the ways you can work around this is use the Gmail action or use the Outlook action. Or what I'm also assuming is, I mean, this is sort of the scorched earth method, is I'm assuming that you could probably delete the action altogether and rebuild it again with a brand new send email action. Not 100%.
You cloned the automation. Can you clone an automation?
You can duplicate an automation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also recommended that if you're using Make already for other things, you might just want to have Make send your email instead. But yeah, it's very weird that Airtable doesn't give us control over that, because it can be very problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of it from Airtable support perspective. I think legally they might not be able to resubscribe somebody based on my request, right? If Dan unsubscribed and I'm emailing support about it, hey, can you subscribe Dan again? They might be like, no, you're not Dan.
Right.
So whomever accidentally unsubscribed might be the one that has to reach out to support, because from Airtable's perspective, how do they know that I'm not being malicious and like, you're going to get these marketing emails whether you like it or not?
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. That's very true. Very true.
But yeah, the send email, the default one from Airtable, while useful, is fairly limited for a variety of reasons, and this is just one of them.
Yep. So yeah, interesting. Yeah, and you also probably shouldn't be. I mean, this is probably just like a. Well, although it is saying it's a marketing email, I mean, you're limited on how many emails you can send out, so you're not going to be able to do a lot of marketing with the Airtable action.
Yeah.
Right.
So, okay, next one. Chris Dancy, friend of the show, showing us just a small glimpse into his world. So this is, let's see. So he's ultra wide using the headset AR. Can't even see the whole screen. It's like 3 30-inch monitors side by side. So he's on the airplane and using the VR headset to do some work on Airtable.
He's doing this on a plane?
That is very
Scott in
Chris
Florida.
Dancy, we live different lives.
That is hilarious. He really is the world's most connected man, isn't he?
Yeah.
I'm surprised they let you put on a VR headset on a plane. I just feel like that's so weird.
Yeah. I think, yeah, we'll start seeing more of that.
You know, if it works, it works. It's just, I do find that Airtable interfaces, because you don't really have much font size control. If you have a very big, monitor, I'm zooming in and I'm young, I should be able to see the text. But if you have a very wide sort of setup, sometimes it really does get hard to see stuff in Airtable because the text is really small. I don't know if I could do this.
Yeah, I get a headache whenever I try the VR stuff. So
yeah.
All right, next one. This comes from the BuiltOnAir community. So a couple of product features. Power Save. They were a guest on the show, so have some new features. They now have the ability to do sub records. What's it called? So like linked records, nested records. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So it's a Chrome extension to allow you to auto create records from a website, and similar to the Airtable Chrome extension, but much more powerful. So check that out at PowerSave. And okay, from Russell, it happened. Our automation logging caught a looping automation before it caused chaos. So the primary plan was to build perfect automations. The fallback plan is to catch your mistakes. So each automation run sends a ping and it resets every hour. So he basically built in like notifications if something goes crazy with his automations. This is probably a good time, and then they track it all. So they're tracking how many runs. So they ping like another base or something to track every time an automation runs. And you see it
cool.
Crazy. So this is probably a good time. I don't think this was posted publicly. It was posted in a private chat about changes to automations if it times out. One of you want to talk about what happened there?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
My understanding is previously, if you had a run a script action within your automation, it would do its best to run whatever code is in there, and it would have 30 seconds to complete all of the code. And if it failed, it just would have failed, and your automation errored out. Your whole automation errored out. So solutions to that were varied depending on whatever the script was actually attempting to do, breaking it up into multiple actions or having error handling based in there so that the automation could continue, all of that. But Airtable has made an adjustment. So now run a script actions within an automation now have a 60-second timeout. So basically double, and run a script actions will retry themselves after they have failed. So the first part, I think most people are happy with having a longer runtime, so you can have more complicated or at least more wiggle room for the code that you're trying to execute. The second part, the auto retry, had some mixed reactions as far as I could see, because sometimes you don't want it to retry. If it fails, maybe it should fail, and maybe you want it to just stop. So that has not been announced, or I don't think documented either anywhere. So Airtable might still be rolling that out to certain accounts. I'm unsure if the 60-second limit is universal or if it's for just enterprise or a particular plan level, but I am waiting to see more of that adjustment documented so we can understand what are the parameters for the retry. Is it always? Does it stop after 5? What are some details there?
Yeah, that's in a way you could almost consider that like a breaking change, because that severely changes the behavior that we've all depended on for all these years.
Yeah, when an automation errors out, it emails somebody. Who it emails is a different discussion altogether. But sometimes you might have like an email sort of set of rules set up that, did I get an error alert for an automation? Okay, then do this. So people, if this is something that you do in your day-to-day and you rely heavily on automated processes, you might have set up your system to catch errors in a particular way based on how errors would be presented. And now I'm unsure what happens if an error happens in an automation and it retries itself. Do you get alerted every time? Because that doesn't seem great. I would ideally have one alert that it failed and I could look to see and have the ability to retry all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So this is it's times like these where I appreciate N8N, which is my preferred automation handler, because it allows you, if you had a failed execution of an automation, you're allowed to retry the automation either in the configuration setup that it was when it failed, or if you have since fixed like an error in your automation in the settings, like, oh, I selected the wrong option when I was configuring this, it allows you to retry given the current configuration. So, there's certain things about error handling that are handled in more robust automation systems.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. Make has announced that they're bringing that feature to Make sometime this year.
Yeah, it's very useful, and I would not be surprised if Zapier already has it or are working on it themselves, just because there are times where an automation fails because of human error. I set it up incorrectly, or I missed this edge case, that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I don't want to have to start from scratch necessarily to get these failed executions back in line.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So I don't know, Russell doesn't say if his issue was that it was timing out, but if your automation does time out, which often it does, and often it's Airtable's fault because their APIs take too long or something. This is what you might be seeing with just tons of automation runs. And Ali is the one that pointed this out, and something very similar happened where they just got in this infinite loop because it kept timing out and it sent out a ton of emails and their automation runs went crazy.
Right.
So definitely keep aware. If you start to get a ton of emails, then that might be the reason why it's going in the loop. Okay, here's we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but it looks like in December they started rolling out where you can see how many APIs you're using each month, and it will show you in your account settings for the workspace. And I'm wondering, and I don't know, Scott, if you've looked since, if you have this, I'm wondering if this is only on the free tier, on free workspaces.
Oh, I eventually got that. I did eventually get it in my workspace.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I was on, but here's what's interesting though. I was on the Pro Legacy, the people that were grandfathered into the old Pro plan, but I changed to the Teams plan. So I don't know if me changing the Teams plan is what enabled me to finally get this or not.
Interesting.
So maybe that's what did it when I switched to Teams. That might have been what got me this finally.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So there it shows you your usage. So that might come in handy because they are starting to crack down on API usage and tightening the belt there.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple more. Lauren says, for complicated reasons, I have a table in one base being generated by a multi-source sync from another base. I have both syncs set up to allow for creation of records in the destination base. However, I don't actually seem to be able to add records in the destination base. I suspect this is because of the multi-source sync. It wouldn't be clear which source table the new record should be created in, but I don't understand the documentation. And then Gia says the ability to create records in multi-source sync tables is not available per the article they link to. So that's something to be aware of.
It's not great. I mean, I wish I would be able to do exactly as described, but I suspect we can't do that for exactly Lauren's hunch as well. Airtable doesn't know which of those sources it's supposed to create that record in. And they could add a sort of toggle or something in there that, when you create a new record, it first asks you which source it should try and add it from. But that kind of introduces a new sort of paradigm into their world, and maybe they advised against it. I had to do something similar with Master Calendar, where you can have multiple different tables represented on a single calendar, and I allow you to create new records on the calendar. First, I have to ask you which table, because you might have 10. And it works in that instance because it's always kind of like form based, but with Airtable, it's often not. You just sort of add a new row to what looks like a single grid, and it might interrupt the sort of UX flow.
Yeah, interesting.
All right, I'm going to skip ahead here. I'm going to end with this one. This was a pretty big announcement in December. So talking about the bigger no-code, low-code space, AI leader Grammarly acquired Coda. and then brought the Coda CEO in to run the combined Grammarly Coda. So pretty interesting. This one was shocking to a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, Bill French was like, yeah, yes, exactly as I predicted. And I don't doubt that he had suspicions or whatnot, but I was like, this is news to me. I don't understand how these are at all compatible products, such that I could have predicted it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure it makes sense if I were to read up on it more, but I was like, okay, if you say so.
This was definitely more shocking than when Intuit acquired MailChimp, which was also shocking, but that made a little bit of sense. This one, I don't understand this one.
Yeah. It sounds like it could have been sometimes, Grammarly had more cash in the bank or whatever. And it's really a merger between the two. And it sounds like it's almost Grammarly is going to be built into Coda, and it sounds like they're going to maybe expand kind of the vision to be a more full suite of workspace applications. Yeah,
the Coda people, Coda is very impressive. They gave me a demo, and their database features are really deep in Coda, and they're getting better and better.
Yeah, Coda is, from a technical standpoint, Coda is advanced. Yeah.
Friend of the show, Kavan, is a massive sort of Coda enthusiast. She really likes Coda and all its capabilities. And I sort of trust her opinion on things. I do wish that I could just have Coda's database by itself and not in any way associated with like a smart doc, as they're often referred. I just want their series of database features alone and by themselves, but they're kind of integrated with the rest. You can end up with a database by itself, but it does feel like you're, I don't know, going to an ice cream shop and only ordering cones, just the cone and nothing inside it, and that's how it feels.
Right. One of the cool, I mean, they have hundreds of advanced database functions, and one of the cool things they have that we wanted for a long time in Airtable is you can do lookup fields from multiple tables away. So, in Airtable, we've got to sort of, do that waterfall effect, look up from one table to another table, then bring it into the next table. And with Coda, you could just jump across many different tables and look up a field from like 3, 4, 5 tables away.
Yeah.
I do think Grammarly felt some heat with AI, because what Grammarly does, it is great. Like, we use it and it's useful, but these LLMs kind of can do what was Grammarly's secret sauce for years. And so I do think they were like, okay, we got to reinvent ourselves.
Interesting.
And that's part of this. So anyways, interesting stuff there. Okay, let's move on. If you are running your business in Airtable and need to make sure that you are following best practices, backups is an essential part of that. So that's where OnToAir comes in. You can back up your Airtable data and your attachments and your meta information into Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, and OneNote. And you can now restore that back into Airtable. And we're working on some new features for this year that I'm excited about. So make sure you check it out, ontoair.com. You can use promo code BuiltOnAir to get a discount and get started making sure you have peace of mind that your data is stored outside of Airtable. So check it out at OnToAir. Okay, Scott, let's dig into forms and do some comparisons.
Oh, yeah. I want to talk a little bit about linked records in forms. One cool thing, one cool app that everybody has fallen in love with is Fillout, because we all know that Fillout has added hundreds and hundreds of features to their form product that Airtable does not have in their forms. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. And, so many of my clients are turning to Fillout first, as opposed to using Airtable's forms, just because of all the incredible features you get. I mean, everything from multi-page forms to, having CAPTCHAs on your form and accepting payments on your forms and multi-page forms. And I mean, the list is endless. However, I just discovered that there is one feature, a hidden feature that I don't think we've ever uncovered before in Airtable's forms that Fillout does not have. It's one advanced feature.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe you.
It's not that I don't believe you, but I'm wondering if this is one of those little things that I've taken for granted and just assumed everybody has used. So now I must know.
It's very possible. It's very possible. And I don't even know how long this feature's been here, but we're going to find out today. And I did actually make a Loom video about this for the Fillout folks, and the CEO was very excited, and he said he's added this to the roadmap for Fillout. So this will be coming soon to Fillout. So let's talk about what this hidden feature is in Airtable's forms that I at least did not know this existed. So what I am going to do is share my screen here, and I'm going to share my entire screen. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to go into Airtable here, and let's pretend that we have a ticket ordering system here, and we have a very simple base here. You have a whole bunch of orders here. These are just auto numbers here. Then a person is associated with each one of these orders, and they're ordering tickets like for a concert or something. And over here, so these are the tickets they're going to be choosing for their order. And over here, we have the tickets that we can choose from. Now, this is one of those situations where once somebody chooses a seat that they want to sit in for the concert, that ticket is sold. You don't want anybody else getting that seat number. So basically what I've done here is for an order number 1, John has chosen seat 101 and Mary has chosen seat 102. So we want to make sure that seat 101 and seat 102 are not available to anybody else. And you'll see back on our tickets table here, we have seats numbers 101 all the way through 105 here. And by the way, each ticket has a separate price. There's a description of the seat. Here's a view of what the stage would look like from your seat. And here's the order number that this particular seat is linked to. So let's go back to the orders here. So when Betty comes in and she wants to pick her tickets, and you click on the plus sign here, we only want seats 103 through 105 to show up here because those are the only ones that are currently available. Those are the ones that are not linked to an order. And so the way that I set that up was I went into the tickets linked record field here, and I turned on this relatively new option in Airtable that I think they released this last year at some point, where you can filter the record selection by condition. And I told it to only show me the tickets that are where it only show the tickets where the order number is still empty. So basically, only show me the tickets that don't yet have an order number linked to them. And so now when I come in here for Betty and she wants to choose a seat, she's going to choose seat 103. And then when Grace comes in to place her order, we can see that only seats 104 and 105 are available. And so I'm just going to get rid of this one for right now. And so that's great. That works perfectly. And that also carries over to the forms as well. So if we go into the forms here, and let me just preview this form like this. And somebody comes in to create a new order. So let's say John comes in and he wants to choose tickets. You'll see that seats 103, 104, and 105 are available. And that's exactly what we would expect, because if we go back out once again and we look at the data, we see that only 101 and 102 are taken right now. So 103, 104, and 105 are still available. And Airtable's forms handle that perfectly. Now, here's where it gets interesting. let's say John is filling out the form here and he's like, oh, I want to sit in seat number 105. And of course, he could choose more than one ticket too if he wanted. But let's say he chooses seat 105. And let's say this is actually like a bigger form. Maybe he's filling out his address, his phone number, his email. He's taking his time. And then he gets a phone call and he has to leave. He hasn't submitted the form yet. And so John is taking his sweet time with this form. Now, while John is taking his time with this form, somebody else is coming in. So I'm going to switch over to an incognito browser window here. Somebody else comes in. Dan comes in, and Dan decides that he wants seat number 105. And then he clicks submit. So now what's happened is seat 105 is technically not available anymore. But John has already chosen seat 105 here. So John gets off his phone call. He comes back to his form like 20 minutes later, and he's ready to submit the form. Now, this could be a real problem here. If this form successfully submits, what ends up happening is two people are going to be fighting the night of the concert because they're both going to be showing up with tickets for the same seat, number 105.
Ticketmaster?
What'd you say?
Ticketmaster.
Yeah, exactly. So check this out. When John finally gets around to clicking the submit button, Airtable gives an error. Couldn't submit form. The item seat 105 is no longer available for selection. Please remove the item and try again.
Wow.
I did not know this existed.
Neither did I.
Is this?
My God. That's great.
It's incredible, right?
Yeah, that's proper error handling in a form. And one of my biggest gripes with Airtable forms is how limited error handling is. And this is one of the most important errors. And would you look at that? Here it is.
Exactly. I was so incredibly excited when I discovered this because, yeah, this is perfect error handling. What Airtable is essentially doing is when you click on the submit button, it's actually reevaluating the linked record field to make sure that your selection is still valid. And so Philip said they're going to be adding that sometime this year, which is great. And yeah, so that is a very, very cool feature that's built into Airtable forms. And it is, as far as I know, it's the only feature that Airtable's forms have that Fillout does not have. Now, another
2 questions.
Well, go ahead.
Well, this is more of a comment. I wish that after you clicked OK, it would have removed seat 105 from, the field, so it's no longer selected, and or it had, the red text that appears of like,
yes,
it's please, blah blah blah. Because if this is a really long form, it might be smack dab in the middle, and you might have to like look back and well, where is that field? That kind of thing. Minor gripe. But my question is, for your table that has your seats, is the record name item, or is that a generic name that Airtable put on?
Ooh,
so like in tickets, right, if you go, okay, no, they're called tickets. I wish that the error handling would pick up that name that's provided here. Most of the time it's just going to say record, fine. But here we've explicitly said call records in this table tickets. I wish the error handling picked up that name. That's relatively minor. I'm just amazed at this feature's here.
Those are 2 great suggestions that Airtable, if you're listening, these are 2 great suggestions. But yeah, that's true because like, for example, if you have a required field and going back to your first suggestion and let's say I go into preview here and you accidentally leave that blank, it'll show up in red there. So you know exactly where the problem is.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, another feature in Airtable's forms, and this has been here for a while since they came out with these interface forms, is that, and you guys have probably covered this in the past as well, is that you can actually now choose. In the past, what would happen is when you would actually click on this, it would actually only show you the primary field to choose from. But in Airtable's interface forms, you can now actually add additional fields in here as well for the first time. This was never previously available in the old forms. And so now if we go into preview mode here and you click on here to add a ticket, it'll actually give you the extra fields that you've specified. So you could see them in the drop-down list as well. Now, in this particular case, Airtable works really, really well for this because, you know, the price is very small here. It's just, you know, a small number. Then the description, it's just a couple of words here. But this doesn't work so well if you want to show a lot of information, or let's say your description was really, really long. Maybe you typed in like a paragraph worth of information here for this description. Airtable actually does not expand this to show you everything. Basically, what Airtable does is it takes this set width. So this width always stays the same in Airtable's forms, and it will squeeze things down as much as it can to squeeze everything in. So if you're trying to show like 4 or 5 different things there, you probably won't be able to do that, because you'll end up with every single thing will be cut off. Like even the number will be cut off, the description will be cut off. You'll only see like a couple little characters for each field. So in those regards, it's not ideal. And that's why I wanted to show Fillout how they do a much better job of that. In Fillout, you have that same functionality here. You do have the filters. So this is where you can have Fillout restrict you to only showing you tickets that are currently available. However, as we discussed, if 2 people choose it at the same time, or someone chooses it, you know, that is not yet implemented. So we do have the filtering function. And then here, when you choose which fields you want to show here in Fillout, I'm going to choose a couple different ones here. I'm going to show you what this looks like. Fillout does a much better job of this. What they do is, not only do you get to see images much larger, but every single field will take up its own line. And not only that, but if you have a very lengthy description, Fillout will actually expand the height for each one of these records to make sure that none of your text will ever get cut off. So that's a really, really nice feature of Fillout. So you can actually get each one of these choices to be really, really tall and just have tons and tons and tons of information for each record that you're choosing, and nothing ever gets cut off. So I wanted to show that Fillout does have some extra functionality there that Airtable does not have. So yeah, so that's it. So we've now seen some pros and cons to Airtable's forms and Fillout's forms.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Definitely have not seen that before. So now we can get rid of Ticketmaster. We're going to implement our own ticketing system and
Yes,
take down the empire.
We're taking them down starting today, 2025.
Yeah, that'd be funny. Awesome. Cool. Camille, let's walk through the new automation features. There you go.
So credit where credit is due. This was first observed, at least as far as I'm aware, by co-host Ali Alosa. And this is actually not really the automation so much as it's field settings for lookups and rollups. So what I have here is a table full of various different competition shows. And in order, all of the people who have won that particular show, this is all the US version of each of these 3 different shows for each of the seasons that have been produced, linked together with a simple linked record field. And next to it, I have a lookup of each of these winners' names. So what you'll observe in sort of standard Airtable setup prior to this update is that the order in which the records are linked determines the order in which all of the lookups and rollups behave. So Fantasia's the first in this array, and so Fantasia's name appears first. if I were to go in here and readjust so that EM is first, oh wait, huh? Yeah, I didn't turn it on yet, but that didn't change. That's news to me. There you go. I had to refresh. So now that I've reordered it, so EM is first. EM is the first in the list. So I think it might be just my internet connection as to why it didn't update immediately on my screen. But what was recently added is a new option that allows me to, regardless of how things are arranged in the order in which things are linked, which is normally people aren't going in and rearranging these links manually like this. Most of the time, you're just sort of linking them together as time goes on and not really worrying about the order afterward. But if you wanted to alphabetize the list of names, it's now very possible and very easy by having a lookup set up the same way, except this new option here called sort records. And I said sort by name, A through Z. Or what I could also do is, let's say I want to do them by the season in which they won. So sort by season 1 through 9 and hit OK. And so now we all know that Kelly Clarkson was the first person to win American Idol. So Kelly Clarkson is first. I'm going to hit Control Z because this is alphabetical. And then the second thing that I wanted to note is that you could also do the same thing with a roll-up. So something that is useful, the difference between a lookup and a roll-up is going to show you that field as is, basically. Very useful in a lot of instances, especially if you have a lookup of a linked record field. So you'll be able to click on it and see more information about that record, all that good stuff. But a roll-up will allow you to simplify things down and to get summaries of your data. So in Top Chef, they had their normal seasons, and I think they had a season of All Stars. So one of these contestants won the show, and then they went on the show again and won again. So back-to-back winners. With a roll-up, I can get an alphabetical list where that person only appears once, array unique. But using the same setting of give me all of their names alphabetically. And then the last example I wanted to show is just once again having the same list of people ordered by season, and that's where you can see Kelly Clarkson is there as number 1. And this is more obvious when it's by season for whatever reason for me to see. Buddha won the show twice in back-to-back seasons. Congratulations to you. to you. But in alphabetical unique, you can see their name only appears once. But in the lookup, where alphabetical is just a lookup and not a roll-up, Buddha appears twice, but still alphabetical.
It's so incredible. I mean, this is one of the key features we wanted for so long.
It is, and it does play nicely with this other feature that has been there for a little bit, but is still, I think it was released last week, limit number of items shown. So if I want the first 5 winners by season, I can now do that. So again, EM is first and then Fantasia. Fantasia won like season 10 or something like that. Oh, wait, no. My American Idol history is wrong. She won season 3. Oh my God. But you know what I mean. So like, obviously that's not the order. I'll just slide these over so they're next to each other. You can see the order in here. I can say, give me the winners of the first 5 seasons or the last 5 seasons very easily with the combination of these 2 settings turned on. So once again, I'm sorting by a particular season. This is just a number field. And then give me the first of those 5. You can also do the last of those 5 if you want it. The same thing is true with roll-ups. Although with roll-ups, they do it a little bit differently. It's not a toggle. It's one of the different aggregations. So it would be, I believe, array slice. So this is useful in that I can give me the middle 5 if I know the start and the end. I could do something like that. So give me 3, let's do that. And then just for comparison's sake, we'll sort by season in this case. So now instead of saying, give me the first 5, I can say, give me the 4 people starting from the 3rd position, starting with Fantasia, Carrie Underwood, Taylor Hicks, Jordan Sparks. So with this combination of these 2 features, roll-ups and lookups are very powerful in that you don't have to do a series of crazy automations in order to figure out, well, who are the top 5. Something I've had to do quite a bit was have fields on both of these 2 tables that had formulas that are like, okay, give me the minimum season number on the competition table, which would be 1, and then bring that back onto the people table as a lookup or a roll up and say, with a formula, does your season equal 1? If so, yes, that means you were the first winner. And then back on the competition, I'd have a lookup of that field that told me whether or not Kelly Clarkson won first. I don't need to do that anymore. I could just say, give me, order all of the winners by the season they won and give me the first one. And I know the first person to win each of these seasons. So it reduces a lot of bouncing back and forth that we've previously had to do. Very nice feature addition. No notes. I will just say a lot of the times whenever they add new features to lookups and rollups, they also add it to the count field. I haven't tested, but I suspect it doesn't exist for the count field because it doesn't make sense. Yeah, you wouldn't need to sort for a count. You would only need to filter things out.
It's so exciting. And and for a long time we were saying that limit function that they added was sort of unusable without having a sort to go with it. And now we have limit and sort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Camille, you're a big American Idol fan. I have a long, illustrious history with American Idol. Later on, do a YouTube search for Scott Rose American Idol.
Okay. I need to know more about your life is what I'm learning.
That's awesome. I remember I think I have automations that would, anytime you update like the winner, it would automatically sort them based off of the other table. So you'd have to do an automation or a script to sort them.
Yep.
Some parameters. So this is huge.
It is huge.
I think this indicates that we're going to have a great 2025 with Airtable.
Yeah.
Well, don't paint him into a corner. I'm ready to be annoyed at any given moment. But yeah, this is a fun discovery. Once again, Allulose is the one I saw who pointed out first, and yeah, I will be using this immediately.
Yep. Very cool. Thank you for showing that. Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see if they even document it. We'll see.
I hope
Awesome.
so. I want people to know about it because I've written many a community post trying to explain how to do this. I've covered it on the podcast before. Allie's covered it on the podcast before because it's a common thing that people need. I need it all the time, and it's so annoying to actually put in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on. So if you are not in our BuiltOnAir community, now's the time to join. This is going to be a big year for us. We are looking to invest and enhance the BuiltOnAir community. So no announcements right now, but this year we are planning to ramp up and do more. So excited for that. Join us at builtonair.com/join. Get into our Slack community. There's thousands of Airtable fans and people just like you that you can interact with. It's free to join and amazing people in there. Love to have you there. Okay, let's talk. Let's spend 5 minutes talking about Airtable, where it's at, where it's going. I've got, so we, a couple weeks ago, Hannah on our team put together a list of our 18 favorite Airtable features launched this year. So here's a look at some of the things that Airtable launched in 2024 and some of our favorites. They launched a couple more, but AI was obviously a big one of that, and rolling out more. Sandbox, HyperDB. This one is more of a tease. I think it's still, this will be the year for HyperDB.
I agree.
Down to download CSV from interfaces. So some of the features, you can check it out. Be sure to connect with us on LinkedIn and any other place. And then here, I was just going through Airtable's blog just to kind of get a sense of what are they talking about. Obviously, AI is a big one. The Airtable Academy, I think we'll see more learning options for people, things like that. And one more link I'll share in our notes. Anthony, who's VP of Product at Airtable, went on a podcast and talked about how they think about product. And obviously, AI is a big part of that. And then Scott, so let's see, when did you write this? 2023.
February.
I think you wrote this before then, right?
No, February 2023 is when I posted that.
Okay. So that, I guess almost 2 years ago. So explain to us what this is and how are they doing?
This is on our forums, tableforums.com, a great community to discuss Airtable. And this was, I started a thread called List Your Top Airtable Feature Requests here. And I kicked off the thread with my top 13 feature requests at that time from 2 years ago. And as of today, with this brand new feature that Camille presented today, they have knocked off 3 out of these 13. So I still have 10 left on this list. But they kicked off, they knocked off three of the big ones though, which is really nice. Some of the ones aren't so critical anymore, like the CAPTCHAs on forms, not so critical anymore because we can get that with fill out. Duplicating records in bulk, I would still like to see that, where you could just write, just select a bunch of records and then just duplicate them. The linked. Oh, go on, yeah.
I have hope for number 5. Dan mentioned HyperDB, and one of the features of HyperDB is it asks you if you're basically creating a new data source within Airtable, but you have a much larger amount of records you could put in there. So it says pick one column that is your unique ID and pick another column that's your search field. So if your unique ID is, I don't know, my social security number, which isn't secure, but blah, 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 blah. But my search field is my name. You would be able to type in either my social security number if you knew it, or my name. So that's only 2 fields out of however many fields your HyperDB might have. But the idea of searching by something that isn't the primary is something that Airtable is working on, at least for that section of their product. So it's possible that they might take lessons learned out of that and put that into their product at large. I can see why they wouldn't do more than just one search field for HyperDB, because it's supposed to be like 100 million records is the number they keep floating around. And perhaps you don't want to search by 30 fields for 100 million records. I understand that. But for your other tables that only have 100,000 records, or likely far fewer, maybe allow us to search by more than one field.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully we'll see that this year. I also would love to see, the automatic backlinks to linked records within the same table. Conditionally colored cells would be really, really nice.
Yeah. Any others?
A lot of people have added a lot of things into this thread. This is a really long thread.
Yeah. Very cool. So they're looking. I wonder which one they're going to pick next.
We have a comment. I really want number 4. We're renewing our contract at the company I work for and the cost. So the ability to pay for more records and more automation runs. Yes. So there are a lot of sort of SaaS products that have your standard tiered pricing, free and, pro of some kind, business, enterprise, yada, yada. But a lot of times I don't need 100 more employees on my team, which is how these things are normally scaled. I just need like 10,000 more records. And so there are certain products that have a tiered pricing structure, but with add-ons that you could get to get you past those finite limits, in chunks. So allowing you to pay for the actual resources that you use.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. We're up on the hour, so let's end. Give me one prediction for 2025 for Airtable.
Interfaces are going to get slightly worse before they get better. I think that's safe.
My prediction is this is the year they're going to listen to all of our consultant feedback.
Don't do that.
No. Let's see. I'm trying to think.
I've got one. So my prediction is this is the year they roll out at least 3 tailored solutions on top of Airtable, like Product Central.
Oh,
yeah.
So they're going to move to predefined, opinionated apps.
I can see that as well.
That's a pretty safe prediction. Cool. Well, let us know in the comments if you've got a prediction for 2025. And we're excited. It's going to be a good year. We'll be back the next 7 weeks for this new season. And thank you all for joining us. And we will see you next time.
Thank you. See you guys.